On July 11th, 2021, the Cuban people did something unthinkable. After 62 years of repression, they stood up. In cities across the island, from Havana to Santiago, thousands took to the streets, demanding freedom, dignity, and basic necessities. Their cries were simple, yet powerful. Libertad, homeland and life. Down with the dictatorship. This spontaneous eruption began in San Antonio de los Baños, fueled by anger over blackouts, food shortages, and the government's mishandling of the pandemic. But it quickly became something greater, a national call for change. The regime responded not with dialogue, but with repression. Within hours, internet access was blocked. Within days, security forces began house-to-house raids. Arbitrary detentions soared. On July 12th, protester Giuseppe Lorenzo Tejada was shot dead by police. Others were disappeared or sentenced in summary trials without due process. By mid-July, over 1,000 Cubans had been detained. Among them, artists, students, mothers, even teenagers. The government sought to reinstate fear, but what emerged instead was resilience. Civic movements like Archipelago Group and the Mothers of 11J took the baton forward. On November 15th, citizens tried again, with a call for a peaceful march. The regime's answer? More bans, more arrests, more exile. But the world was watching. On August 25th, 2021, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights raised alarm over Cuba's Decree Law 35, which criminalized protest coordination online. In October, the CIDH convened an urgent hearing on the human rights crisis in Cuba. By November 29th, it issued a formal statement urging the Cuban government to prevent further abuses and guarantee the right to protest. In 2023, during Cuba's Universal Periodic Review at the UN Human Rights Council, over 140 countries called for the release of political prisoners and an end to state violence. Yet the regime denied it held political prisoners at all. Even as Cuba was re-elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council, international outcry grew louder. The European Parliament, Latin American presidents, global artists, and civil society have all condemned the repression. From Washington, D.C. to Madrid to Buenos Aires, the Cuban people, and those who stand with them, have made it clear. The memory of 11th of July cannot be erased. 4 years later, the reality in Cuba remains bleak. Over 700 people still face prison sentences for 11th of July related protests. New laws like the Social Communication Act have expanded state censorship. Blackouts, hunger, and censorship persist. And yet, so does resistance. In June of 2025, university students launched strikes against unaffordable internet prices. Creative protests have surged. Congas in Santiago, church bells in Camagüey. The spirit of 11th of July lives on. Among those who symbolize this ongoing struggle is Jose Daniel Ferrer, a former political prisoner from the Black Spring of 2003. His release in 2011 came as part of a high-profile agreement between the Cuban regime, the Catholic Church, and the Spanish government. But Ferrer would once again be imprisoned, this time for participating in the 11th of July protests. For nearly 4 years, Ferrer remained behind bars. Then, on January 16, 2025, in a rare trilateral accord involving Cuba, the Vatican, and the United States, he was released. But hope was short-lived. Just 3 months later, on April 29th, his parole was revoked, and he was sent back to prison without public justification. By the end of June 2025, facing deteriorating prison conditions and a regime unwilling to acknowledge his rights, Jose Daniel Ferrer began a hunger strike, a desperate act of protest echoing the sacrifices made by so many in Cuba's long struggle for freedom. The July 11th protests were not the end. They were the beginning, a spark. As we commemorate this anniversary, we remember the courage of those who stood up. We honor those unjustly imprisoned, and we commit to telling their stories. Cuba is not alone, and its people have not been silenced. From every shout of Patria y Vida to every candle lit in exile, the truth echoes. Freedom is not a crime.